homework time, yes! Happy homework time is here yet again. Let us start by putting our name at the top of the paper, so when you turn in your homework, you get due credit. I'll put my name, you put yours, and today's date. You write the actual date. All right, today. All right, instructions. This will look an awful lot like lesson 9. Watch. Each rectangle represents one hole, each of those, and we are to compose the shaded fraction into larger fractional units and express the equivalent fractions in a number sentence using division. First one's been done for us, and so we see we started off with 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 5, 6. Okay, so 4, 6. So you see is what we're given to start with here. And then by drawing these red rounded rectangles, we compose it instead of decomposing as we did before. We're composing it, your mom would say, simplifying the fraction by grouping these two fractional units together to make a larger fractional unit. And what we're doing is we're dividing by 2 halves. So we're changing the form but not the value. And so the equivalent is 2/3 because look, now 2 out of the 3 groups are shaded. So let's go ahead and do some ourselves. So I'm going to switch to my red rounded rectangle. And now when we look at this one, see now I got to think for a second. If I could do all, here let me show you. If I could do all 4 of these, if I could do 4, 4, and 4, then I do that. But I can't because you see I have 4 and I can do 4 and oh then there'd just be 2. So I'm going to, the most I can group them the way it's laid out is groups of 2 like that. So there's one, another one, red rounded rectangles. That could be the name for a really bad band. Ladies and gentlemen, we are the red rounded rectangles. All right, so now what did I start with? What do I have now, and how did I get there? Well, I started with 1, 2, 3, 4 shaded out of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I started with 4/10. And we can go ahead and just set up the division we know we'll be doing. And then figure out the correct values to place in here. And what did I end up with? Well, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, right? Okay, so I grouped them together. So here's 1, 2 groups out of 3, 4, 5. So 2 are shaded now out of, oops, sorry, meant to write that here, 2 out of 5. But that'll actually be okay because what's the relationship between 4 and 2? That's also the relationship between 10 and 5. Well, it's divided by 2, right? So, zip, there we go. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, 10 divided by 2 is 5. You see how we compose them into groups of 2. Lovely, let's go on. So now when I look at this one, I see I can, yeah, quite easily just group together these. Oh, I wanted to do that in red. Let me for the sake, the ever-loving sake of consistency, go ahead and do that in red. There we go, that's better. Ooh, I feel much better now, gosh. And if you have a red colored pencil or crayon you want to do this with, that'd be swell. I'd avoid marker though, it tends to bleed through your chintzy little homework papers. All right, so now, what did we start with? Well, 3, 6, 9, so with 6 shaded out of 9. So we started with 6/9. And we can go ahead and set up the division we know we will be doing. Okay, and what did we end up with? Well, we have 1, 2 groups shaded out of 1, 2, 3. So 2 out of 3. Now, what's the relationship? Now, don't just go and write numbers without thinking, how haphazard-like. Go ahead and think here. What's the relationship between 6 and 2? That's also the relationship between 9 and 3. We're dividing not by 2, but by 3. So 3/3. And the model shows us that as well. Didn't we put them in groups of 3? 3 groups of 3 there. So 6/9 equals 2/3. And let's jump ahead to D now. I'll get my red rounded rectangle ready. Ready, red rounded rectangle? Great. Okay, so now again, I want to check, as I did up with B, boy, can I do, say, maybe this many? Like 2 of those columns? No, because 2, we can't do it. Okay, so I'll just do it like that. And so now there's 2 groups and a third and a fourth and a fifth. So now, what did I start with? What did I end up with after composing? And, muy importante, how did I get there? So I started with 3, 6, 9 out of 12, 15. So 9 shaded out of 15 total. It's always good to stop and check yourself. 3, 6, 9, yep, 12, 15. Okay, good. Doing it right. All right, and I can set up now, and even if I don't want to say, division we know we'll be doing, because if you encounter this in some other context, you wouldn't necessarily know you're doing division. So let me just say, hey, I'm trying to find equivalent fractions here. So let me see, what do I have now? I have 1, 2, 3 out of 4, 5 groups. So 3/5. See, so I've been saying, set up the division we know we'll be doing, but even if we didn't know that in advance, we could look at this and say, what's the relationship between 9 and 3? That's also the relationship between 15 and 5, dividing by 3. See, so even though I know I'm doing division because, hey, this is less than 10, if I didn't know that, say on the mid-module assessment, I could figure it out that I'm doing division just by looking at the relationship between the numbers. And with that said, let's move on. And just as we've seen in lesson 9 and in many lessons in a similar way, they just kind of pull back a little bit and we have to do a bit more. We're going to compose the shaded fractions into larger fractional units, express the equivalent fractions in the number sense and choosing division. Same thing we've been doing. All right, so let's start off. Grab your rounded rectangle with your red. And now when I look at this one, I might say, hey, can I do this much or this much? Well, no, because if I were to go out 4 of these partitions, see, yeah, that doesn't quite work because then I won't have the right amount shaded. So they do this on purpose, right, to make it a little more sensible for us. So I'm going to group them together. Then we'll see what we started with, what we ended up with, and importantly, how we got there. So let's do it. In fact, let's do all of our red rectangles while we're on it, so I can just switch back once. We can see over here how we'll be grouping them. It's pretty obvious, right? Right? Yeah. Okay. Aren't they beautiful, these little red rounded rectangles? They are so pretty. Okay, so I'm going to switch back in black. And we'll do some writing now. We're going to express these equivalent fractions in number sense and choosing division. What do we start with here? 2, 4, 6 out of 8. So 6/8 is what we started with. And as I said in the last one, we don't have to say, automatically no, it's division. Although, yeah, I realize it says so. But if you just look at the relationship between the numbers, so what do we have now in terms of groups? 1, 2, 3 out of 4 groups. So 3/4. What's the relationship between 6 and 3? That's also the relationship between 8 and 4. We're dividing by 2, right? So we're dividing by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. With 8, we're dividing by 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Boom, that's it. All right, so what do we start with here? 4, 8, 12 out of 16. So 12/16. And then we'll see what our equivalent is. So we have 1, 2, 3 out of 4 groups now. Okay, so 3 out of 4. What is the relationship between 12 and 3? That's also the relationship between 16 and 4. You see it? It's dividing by, well, we knew it's division, but you can figure it out too. It's dividing by 4. That's right. So 12 divided by 4 is 3. 16 divided by 4 is 4. Look at that. Cruised right through that one. Yeah. Moving on. All right, well, this is going to be fun. Look, we're going to draw an area model to represent each number sentence. So this time, instead of giving us the area model and we do the math, they're giving us the math and we draw the area model. So we're going to start off this first one with 6/15. Now, I'm glad you're here doing this with me because these can get a little tricky or confusing. So let's take our time here. All right, so draw a nice rectangle. We use the space. In fact, let me just go ahead and draw the rectangle for the next one as well. Have that set up while I have my rectangle tool out. That's good. All right. And I'm going to do this all freehand. All right. So we're looking for 15ths here. Okay. So the way I'd like to draw this is to make 5 columns and 3 rows. Just like multiplication arrays you learned in 3rd grade. Okay. That'll give us 15. So if I draw 4 vertical lines, this is why I said I'm glad you're here doing this with me, because this can get a little weird, a little confusing. See, so now I have fifths, and we know from what we've done before that if I draw, whoa, it's a little wavy. So I'm going to redo that bad boy. All right. It's a little better. All right. And if I draw 2 lines here, now you see this? I have 3 by 5, so I have 15ths now. And to shade them in, I'm going to do my scratchy. So it's 6 out of 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I'm just going to do that for now. Let's go do the same over on the other side. We're going to make 18ths now. So you could probably guess I'm going to do something similar. I'm going to do 6 columns with 3 rows. So if I draw 5 lines going across here, relatively evenly spaced, that's horrible. Oh my goodness. What is wrong with me? 1, so I'm drawing 5 lines to make 6 columns. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hey, not so shabby. And now if I do 3 rows, I'll have 6 times 3, I'll have 18ths. See if I can do better here. Ah, sweet. Yes. Ooh, yes. Okay, and again, it's 6 parts that are shaded in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And now I'm going to be doing the composing because we're dividing into groups of 3. So let me get my handy-dandy red rounded rectangle. Yes, I get way too much pleasure out of saying that. Should be illegal. They're going to like come clamp down on me like, you got to stop saying that. You're enjoying it far too much. All right, so I'm putting them into nice little groups of 3 because we're dividing by 3. And let me just do the same over here because here we're dividing by 3 as well. So since I have my pretty little red rounded rectangle out, just go ahead and draw these as well. Put them into groups of 3. And although we won't have anything really more to write after doing this, we will have some math to do after we draw all our pretty little rectangles. If you can put in the comments what I have to change so I don't have to go back and get that tool every time, I'd appreciate it. If somebody out there smarter than me, which should not be so hard. Oh, don't be so rough on yourself. All right, so we started with 6/15, and we're supposed to end up with 2/5. So is that what we have? 1, 2, there we go. 1, 2 out of 3, 4, 5. 2 out of 5. Oh, we did end up with 2/5. We took 6/15, put them in groups of 3, and we now have 2 out of 5 groups shaded. Here we started with 6/18. Let's check that. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. Okay. So we started with 6/15. I know what that is. All right. So we started with 6/15, and now let's see what we have. We're supposed to end up with 2 6 after we put them in groups of 3. 1, 2 shaded out of 3, 4, 5, 6. Wow, math works. Hallelujah. Let's go look at the last few. Well, this is going to be fun because we're going to do this the easiest way possible here. Look at our This looks like, oh my goodness, they're giving me almost nothing. It's going to be so hard, but watch. We're going to cruise through these. You're going to use division to rename each fraction given below. And by rename, back in ye olden days, we would call this simplifying fractions, okay? So we'll draw a model if that helps you. I don't think I care to. See if you can use the largest common factor. Now that's a part that that you actually haven't so much learned yet, a little bit in today's lesson at school, but let's do this. Okay, so we're looking at 6/12. Now when we say largest common factor, what are factors? So I'm not going to draw models. If you want to, go ahead if that helps you. But what are factors of 6? Okay, so 6, the factors. Remember this, factoring? Okay, yeah, okay, so what numbers can we multiply to get 6? Well, you always start with 1, and in 6 we know that 2 times 3 is 6, so 2 and 3, and of course 1 times 6. Okay, so those are factors of 6. What are factors of 12? Well, again, we'll start with 1 and 12, so 1, and then we know 2 times 6 is 12, and 3 times 4 is 12, and I'm putting them in order, see, so the 2 times 6 and the 1 times 12. Now, when we're asked what is the largest common factor, I'm going to grab my little red helper here. Look, that is the factor that they have in common, the factor they have in common that is the largest. Which factor do they have in common that's largest? It is 6. Okay, so that means we're going to divide by, you got it, 6. So when we write out the division here, 12, and I'm continuing from that equal sign over there, just kind of hopping over. We could, you'd see, we could divide by 2. We could divide by 3. But 6 is the largest. See, they have other common factors, 1, 2, 3, but 6 is the largest one. So watch what happens when we do that. So 6/12 divided by 6 will give us a simplified equivalent. So 6 divided by 6, of course, is 1, and 12 divided by 6, of course, is 2. 6/12 is equal to 1/2 because, again, 6 is half of 12. All right, so now on this one, we already wrote out factors of 12, right? So I'm just going to continue it right here so you can compare easily. What are factors of 4? Well, we know 1 times 4, of course, and 2 times 2, and then, of course, the 4 of the 1 times 4. So what is the, I'll go to red again just for consistency's sake, what is the factor they have in common that is the largest? You see it is 4 is the factor that they have in common that is the largest. Okay, so when we write this out in division land, we're going to say, okay, well, we're looking at 4/12, and we're going to divide by 4 because that is the factor they have in common that is the largest. We could have used 2, right? It would have been correct, but it wouldn't have given it to us in the simplest form, the smallest equivalent. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So 4/12 equals 1/3. There's 2 more of these and we're done. All right, so 2 more of these. So now we're going to deal with 8/12. And watch what we can do. We can do that factoring mess in our heads. So think about factors of 8. 1 times 8, 2 times 4, right? So 1, 2, 4, and 8. And we just wrote out the factors of 12, so those are fresh in our mind. Of 1, 2, 4, and 8, which one of those is a common factor with 12? Well, 2 and 4. 1 is always, so I'm just not going to say that. All right, so 2 and 4 are, and 4 is going to be the greater common factor. So that is what we'll divide by. So when we have 8/12, we're going to divide by the factor they have in common, which is largest, the greatest common factor, which is 4. So 8/12 divided by 4/4, so 8 divided by 4 is 2. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So you see 8/12 equals 2/3. Look at that. Can't make it any harder. That's it. Now when we look at 12 and 18 and you think, well, what is the factor they have in common that is the greatest? We just wrote out the ones for 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. We know factors of 18. 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 18. Hope I didn't miss anything there. So which of those is the largest? Well, it's not going to be 12 or 18. 9 is not a factor of 12. Oh, but 6 is a factor of each of them. Okay, so 6 is the greatest common factor here. So 12. And those are terms, by the way, if you're doing this homework with an elder statesman like myself, greatest common factor, that's still, oh, now I know what you're talking about. That's how we did it back in the old days. So, yes, there you are. Divided by 6, 6. That being our greatest common factor. 12 divided by 6 is 2, and 18 divided by 6 is 3. Oh, isn't that funny? 8 twelfths and 12 eighteenths, they're both simplified to 2/3. Well, look what you've done. You've gone and finished another homework time. Excellent job. I will see you again next time. It is once again homework time.